In today's video, we'll be taking a trip back in time to discover some incredible archaeological discoveries. From long-forgotten snacks to the remains of some fearsome animals, join us on a fascinating journey of discovery as we explore this iconic site. Rocket junk on the moon. Have you heard about the mysterious object that was found on the moon? No, we're not talking about the flags or the footprints left by the astronauts. We're talking about something even more peculiar. A 3-ton missile. In 2022, a piece of rocket debris was discovered on one side of the lunar surface that has been puzzling astronomers ever since. The scientific community has been trying to trace its origin for years, but with no luck so far. Initially, people thought it could be a part of Elon Musk's SpaceX program, but some believed it was Chinese. However, the nation denied any involvement. Although we don't know where it came from, we do know one thing. It's going to stay on the moon for a long time. We're still unsure if it will affect the lunar surface, but we're hopeful it won't have any significant impact on Earth. Researchers are also exploring ways to retrieve the rocket from the moon's surface, but it could take a while before they can pinpoint its origin. After all, if there is no obvious insignia on the component, it's not easy to determine where the space junk originated. Anonymous handprint. Next, we are going to discover an intriguing mystery that has stumped archaeologists in Jerusalem. Recently, workers on Sultan Suleiman Street found an enigmatic handprint that has left researchers scratching their heads. The discovery was made during a building project, and the mysterious handprint has puzzled researchers ever since. It is believed that the handprint is around 1,000 years old and was found in the dry moat that once encircled the city. The moat was designed to stop invaders from breaching the ancient city's walls, and it was about 22 feet broad and 30 feet deep at most. Unlike the moats found in Europe, this one was dry and not filled with water, but it was still sufficient to stop attackers. So, how did this enigmatic handprint get there? Was it abandoned after a collision? Or perhaps a handprint was left behind by someone who fled from peril thousands of years ago? The possibility that locals created it many years back also exists. The genesis of the handprint is still regarded as a riddle, and archaeologists are baffled as to where it originated from. Despite all the research and studies, the answer to this mystery remains unknown, and the handprint will always remain a mystery. As we uncover more about ancient civilizations, we come across fascinating enigmas that leave us with more questions than answers. This handprint in Jerusalem is one such mystery that keeps us captivated with its unique and perplexing nature. The Bedlam Burial Ground of East London. The name Bedlam might sound familiar to you, as it was used to refer to a mental health institution. Unfortunately, this term also reminds us of the terrible ways in which people with mental illness were treated in history. Recently, while digging at a Liverpool Street Station construction site, workers discovered thousands of bones. These bones were buried in what used to be the Bedlam burial site, and all the individuals buried there passed away between 1569 and 1738. During this period, over 20,000 Londoners were buried at Bedlam, also known as Bethlehem, and the New Cemetery. Many of these individuals suffered from mental illness and were unable to afford a religious burial. By 1737, the cemetery was completely full, and it wasn't long before the building occupants around Broad Street filed a motion to stop its use as a cemetery. Now, experts believe that the remnants of the Bedlam Cemetery should be examined to collect samples of the germs that caused the bubonic plague. However, there's a concern that they might accidentally spread the fatal illness. It's fascinating to think about the history buried at the Bedlam Cemetery, but it's also important to approach the site with caution and respect. Black hole in the heart of our galaxy. Let's talk about black holes, the ultimate cosmic voids that have facilitated humanity for centuries. When we hear about them on the news, we often picture a catastrophic scene of planets being sucked into an endless abyss. But is that really the case? In reality, black holes are incredibly dense regions in space where a massive amount of matter is compressed into a tiny space. Think of it like a weighty ball in the center of a sheet that distorts space around it. While it's true that anything that enters a black hole won't come back out, they don't just suddenly appear out of nowhere to wreak havoc on the universe. But what's really exciting is that we were able to take the first ever picture of the black hole at the center of our Milky Way galaxy in 2022. This was an incredible achievement, considering that these cosmic voids are essentially invisible to us. Hundreds of researchers and scientists worked tirelessly to capture this one image, demonstrating just how significant and awe-inspiring black holes are. So, while black holes may seem scary, they are actually fascinating and important parts of our universe, and who knows what other secrets they hold that we have yet to discover. NASA successfully moved an asteroid. Did you know that our solar system is filled with millions of comets and asteroids? These space rocks are the leftovers from when our solar system was formed billions of years ago. And in 2022, NASA accomplished something pretty amazing. They launched a spaceship weighing over 1,000 pounds and sent it hurtling through space at an incredible speed of 14,000 miles per hour. This spaceship, known as Dimorphos, was sent to crash into a small asteroid that was only 525 feet wide. But why on earth would NASA want to crash a spaceship into an asteroid? Well, they wanted to see if they could change the asteroid's course. And guess what? They succeeded! It was the first time in history that they were able to alter the course of an asteroid. You might be wondering why we would want to change an asteroid's course. Well, there are some larger space rocks out there that could potentially collide with Earth and cause a catastrophic event. And while we can't do anything about those big ones just yet, being able to move smaller asteroids is a step in the right direction towards preventing a possible disaster. So, even though our solar system is filled with millions of comets and asteroids, NASA is doing everything they can to make sure that we stay safe from any possible danger that may come our way. Webb telescope reveals invisible universe. Have you heard about the James Webb Space Telescope? It's going to change the way we look at our universe. In 2021, NASA was going to use it to explore the first stars in the universe and learn about our past. And guess what? The telescope has already made an incredible discovery. It captured an amazing image of two galaxies merging into a supermassive black hole, located about 270 million light-years away from Earth. The camera was able to capture this event just as it was happening, and it's mind-blowing to think about. Black holes are these incredibly powerful and mysterious things that even light can't escape from. With the JWST, we'll be able to unlock even more secrets of the cosmos and learn more about our place in it. We may not uncover all of the universe's secrets, but we will definitely be able to learn a lot more about this incredible and vast place we call home. 5,000-year-old whale skeleton. Next, let me tell you about this amazing discovery that experts made near the ocean, about 7.5 miles north of Samut Sakhon, west of Bangkok, Thailand. They found the perfectly preserved remains of an aquatic species, and more than half of the creature's body was still intact. The ruins were almost 40 feet long and had 5 ribs, a shoulder blade, about 19 bones, and flippers. Can you believe it? When the locals saw the remnants of this unknown creature, they were horrified, and it seemed like something straight out of a horror movie. But after some examination, the experts determined that the bones belonged to a bride's whale. This species is blue-gray in appearance and has numerous scars all over its body, caused by parasites and cookie-cutter sharks that keep trying to attack them. They prefer to stay about 50 feet below the surface and are becoming less common today. However, this one was a rare find, as they are one of the few species that can survive in warm seas, and they prefer to stay in coastal regions where the temperature is at least 15 degrees Celsius. It's amazing that this creature existed between 3,000 and 5,000 years ago. troll under the bridge. Have you ever heard of the giant troll living under the George Washington Memorial Bridge in Seattle, Washington? Yeah, you heard that right. This troll is not your ordinary kind, as it stands 18 feet tall and has one hand holding a vintage Volkswagen vehicle. The best part? One of its pupils is missing. This monster has been in the region since 1990 and has been created by two development students, Steve Badanis, Will Martin, and Ross Whitehead. The sculpture's unassuming position has made it relatively unknown, but people recently paid attention to this draw on the internet. Despite the constant vandalism, the troll still manages to stand tall, albeit a little scruffy, thanks to the concrete poured over the paint levels. Who wouldn't want to decorate such a massive monster with spray paint? So, if you're ever in Seattle, don't forget to check out this fascinating creature that has lost its original shape due to ongoing cover-ups. Earliest known Mayan calendar in Guatemala Pyramid. Now, let's talk about one of the coolest things ever discovered from the Mayan civilization. These guys were really smart and did a lot of amazing things back in the day. They had a really advanced society that was into things like farming, writing, math, and art. They even had their own calendar, which is pretty impressive considering it was made thousands of years ago. And guess what? Archaeologists have just found their oldest known calendar yet. It's really old, maybe even over 2,000 years old, and was discovered in a mound in Guatemala. Now, what's so special about this calendar, you might ask? Well, for starters, it's different from the calendar we use today. There are no months in the Mayan calendar, and instead, it's based on the movements of the sun, moon, and planets. They used symbols to represent each day and numbered them from 1 to 13. Plus, they thought the number 13 was actually lucky. The dates were named after things like stars and jade, which is pretty cool. The Mayan writing system was pretty complex, with over 800 symbols, which made it a little harder to figure out what day it was. But it was still amazing because it showed how important their rituals and beliefs were to them. It's just incredible to think about how much the Mayans knew and how they were able to create something like this without the technology we have today. Mysterious sarcophagi beneath the Notre Dame Cathedral. Did you know that after the devastating fire that hit Notre Dame in Paris in 2019, archaeologists made some pretty amazing discoveries during the rebuilding process? That's right. They found two lead sarcophagi from an old cemetery beneath the cathedral, and after a long wait, they finally revealed the identities of the people who had been buried there for many years. One of the sarcophagi belonged to a clergyman named Antoine de la Porte, who lived to the ripe old age of 83 and passed away in 1710. He must have been a pretty important person to be interred under such a famous cathedral. What's more, it seems that he was a wealthy man who supported the church choir and enjoyed a pretty relaxed lifestyle, which might have contributed to his longevity. However, it seems that he suffered from gout and other conditions that were caused by overindulgence in food and drink and inactivity. The other sarcophagus belonged to a nobleman who had suffered from a long-term sickness. We don't know much else about him, but it's fascinating to think about the stories and lives of these people who were buried beneath one of the world's most famous landmarks. It just goes to show that even after hundreds of years, there is still so much we can learn about history and the people who came before us. Prehistoric movies. Have you ever wondered when humans began to make art and entertainment? Well, archaeologists made an exciting discovery recently that surprised everyone. Did you know that people in the prehistoric era attempted to make their own moving pictures? Crazy, right? Well, let me tell you more about it. In 1866, archaeologists found 50 limestone carved stones, also known as plaquettes. It wasn't until later that they realized these stones were meant to be movable works of art. Early hunter-gatherers etched images of animals like chamois, red deer, horses, ibex, and more between 23,000 and 14,000 years ago. Scientists discovered that the rocks had evidence of repeated exposure to fire, which was done intentionally to make the designs more visible. Plus, the lines were even moving due to the fires flashing. How cool is that? Now, let's talk about the terrifying discovery made by scientists at the Grand Canyon. The Grand Canyon in Arizona is about 270 miles long and was carved by the Colorado River. It's a sacred location for many Native Americans who have depended on its blessings for the last 1,000 years. When a package was pulled out of the Grand Canyon's water, people feared opening it as they thought it held the remains of a Native American who had once lived there. They were afraid it would bring a curse upon the world. Speaking of curses, many people were hesitant to open Tutankhamun's sarcophagus due to the belief in the Pharaoh's curse. Some believe that anyone who ventured to disturb the tomb of one of ancient Egypt's pharaohs would suffer a terrible fate. Do you believe that such curses are genuine, though? Share your thoughts in the comments below. It's fascinating to learn about the secrets our dynamic world holds, don't you think? Who knows what other amazing discoveries are yet to be made? Ancient snacks and animal bones. Want to hear something exciting? Let me tell you about one of the coolest places in Rome. It's a massive stone building situated on the eastern side of the Roman Forum, and it's known as the Colosseum. This incredible structure was commissioned by Emperor Vespasian of the Flavian dynasty during the height of the Roman Empire between 70 and 72 AD. His son, Titus, had the honor of inaugurating it in AD 80. The Colosseum, which was completed with a size of about 620 by 513 feet, was the spot where ancient Romans would gather to watch the most intense and bloodiest fights. With a capacity of more than 50,000 people, the stadium was the most popular spot in town back in its heyday. While the building may have deteriorated over time, scientists made some remarkable discoveries inside the Colosseum in 2022. It turns out that ancient Romans had a habit of snacking on finger foods while exploring the nearby sewers and lanes. After a year-long investigation, remnants of nuts, meats, cherries, grapes, blackberries, peaches, and even olives were found, all traced back to almost 1900 years ago. People at the time munched on these delicacies while watching gladiators battle, instead of the contemporary popcorn that we all love so much. What's even more fascinating is that scientists also discovered numerous animal remains from the Roman period, including bones of lions, bears, dogs, and even rodents. The Colosseum hasn't been fully excavated yet, so there's undoubtedly a lot more to discover in the coming years. 180-million-year-old fossil. Whoa, have you heard about the massive sea dragon fossil found in the UK in January 2022? It's crazy to think that this creature, which had a shark-like body and a dolphin-like head, roamed the seas around 200 million years ago. Scientists call it an ichthyosaur, or fish lizard, and it's no wonder why. These creatures were some of the coolest animals to have existed during the Mesozoic era. Unfortunately, many of them disappeared about 90 million years ago. But can you imagine how terrifying it would be to come across one of these 33-foot-tall predators today? The bones were discovered under a nature reserve in England, and it's amazing to think about the secrets still waiting to be uncovered beneath our feet. 2,000-year-old middle-class home. Did you know that even though it's less obvious now, social class has always been a thing? In ancient Rome, there were distinct groups that made up a social hierarchy to set apart the rich from the poor. People were given various rankings based on their wealth and jobs. Unfortunately, the lowest social stratum belonged to enslaved people who were treated as objects and had no personal rights. It was a dark and harsh reality back then. But have you ever wondered how Roman middle-class families lived? Well, guess what? Archaeologists found some houses in Pompeii that belonged to middle-class households. They led relatively comfortable lives compared to the lower classes. In one of the houses, there was even a bedroom and storage area on the ground level. Beds and wooden chests were a luxury that middle-class families could afford. It's exciting to think about what future excavations could reveal about how Pompeii's inhabitants survived thousands of years ago. Although social class may never disappear completely, it's good to know that people in different classes had different lifestyles and experiences in the past. It's fascinating to learn about the different ways people lived and what they had access to. Thank you very much for watching the video. Which of these findings most intrigued you? Let me know about it in the comments down below. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a video. See you in the next one.